The Steam library has a huge number of games, so many in fact that if you dig deep enough, you'll find some that seemingly nobody knows about. They literally have 0 reviews. So today I intend to journey into the depths of Steam and discover some of these games for myself. But there's one rule: after playing each game, I have to leave them their first positive review. Don't you hate it when you're driving out in the middle of the barren desert all by yourself and out of nowhere you get abducted by aliens? Yeah, me too. Kinda makes me want to punch them for doing that, which is exactly what you do in this game. In Test Subject, you are on an alien spaceship trying to escape, and at no point do you wield a gun. Why would you need one of those stupid things when you've got this and this? You go through different levels, fisticuffing aliens and solving small puzzles like finding switches, unlocking doors, and powering generators. I wonder if I can use this head as a power cell. Nope. And along the way, you can find upgrades for your character. Some basic ones like improving your speed, strength, or health, or you can also obtain the power to slow down time or gain a temporary strength boost after a kill. It's a short, sweet game. Doesn't really do anything substantially unique, but doesn't overstay its welcome either. Punching the aliens until their heads fly off is awesome, and the powers you get to use add a nice variety to the mix. And it all culminates to this final level that brought me back to the last level of Halo Combat Evolved, where you escape the Pillar of Autumn on a warthog. You find your stolen Jeep, hop in, and drive your way to the exit while splattering masses of aliens along the way. And when you finally see a light at the end of the tunnel, you launch your Jeep back out into the desert where you started. I like to imagine that your character continues his drive like nothing even happened. Just another Tuesday of getting abducted, butchering aliens with your bare hands, and taking a casual drive out in the middle of nowhere. This game is like Halo without the guns, which might sound lame, but it's actually sick. I like the parts where you punch aliens and drive your car, officially adding loves long drives in the desert to my bio. Surrounded by Death is a base-building, real-time strategy game where you build a village while fending off zombies and other evil creatures. You start out with just a town hall and 20 villagers, and you can build farms, mines, and other structures to collect resources, houses to increase the size of your town, walls to defend against zombies, and different training grounds to turn your villagers into warriors, archers, or even mages. This game is absurdly hard. I am not a huge RTS player, but I struggled to keep my town alive for very long. It's not terribly difficult to accumulate resources in the beginning to get things going, but once you start to grow your army, it really starts to eat into your supplies. It didn't matter how much I maxed out my structures. It seemed like I was always using more resources than I was gathering. Now, the obvious solution would be to keep my army on the smaller side until I could get even more upgrades, but trust me, you need the numbers. You and your warriors attack at the speed of what seems like once every eternity. A single basic zombie takes forever to take down, even with several people attacking. On top of that, you also only have 30 minutes until the first horde comes to your village, and if you don't have a big enough army to defend against that, you are screwed. Which was the case for me every single time. If you have enough soldiers, the basic enemies aren't too bad, but then these evil wizard guys show up and wipe out all of your dudes with a single spell. Another thing I struggled with was getting my units to do what I wanted them to do. They don't really do anything on their own. It's like the enemy literally has to be touching them before they notice. So in my opinion, Surrounded by Death is extremely unbalanced, and it doesn't help that your units don't seem to have any brains of their own. But apart from that, I see a solid foundation for a good game here. The art style is simple but adorable. I think it contrasts well with the dark themes of the game. And the systems, for what they are fairly fun to play around with. Just adjust some of the numbers, make the units a little better at attacking enemies on their own, and nerf these guys. I hate them so much. Either lower their damage or turn them into glass cannons that die in one hit. Do that and we're golden. Shoot, I forgot I need to actually type this out. Great game, but frick that wizard Deathman. I hate that guy. Slay the Spire has been one of my favorite games as of late. I actually had to delete it off of my computer because I was getting too addicted to it. So how excited do you think I was when I found a game that was Slay the Spire, but with anime girls? I was goon. In Dream of Remains, you do pretty much what you do in Slay the Spire. You pick your character and choose your path on the map, taking you through different scenarios and monster fights, growing your deck of cards and improving your character until you finally reach a difficult final boss whose defeat will prove the strength of the character you built along the way. It's much shorter though, only taking you through one map with a final boss and then a final boss afterwards. A lot of the scenarios within the maps are similar too. You of course have your campfires where you can heal, some standard fights, a handful of harder fights that give you a relic that buffs your character, and shopkeepers who have this terrifying artwork when you encounter them. Sir, are you here to take my money by force or through the legal trade of goods? I'm getting mixed messages here. In case the game wasn't looking familiar enough yet, what do you know? The characters are similar too. You have Quake, who plays like the Ironclad with basic attack and defense cards. Rogue plays like the Silent, placing more emphasis on poison damage and stacking up knives, which would be the equivalent to shivs in Slay the Spire, although they do play slightly differently. I can give them that at least. And the third character, Parade, is actually not a direct ripoff. In addition to basic attacks, he can also summon monsters to fight on his side. They're expensive to summon, but if you can get a large group going, you're basically invincible. My strategy with him was just to collect as many spider summoning cards as I could and obliterate the enemy with my army of arachnids. He ended up being my favorite to play as. It's actually a really cool idea and feels like it would fit perfectly into the Slay the Spire lineup. My time with this game actually wasn't horrible. My main complaint is just that Dream of Remains rips off almost everything from Slay the Spire, but doesn't have the same level of variety, depth, or polish. But honestly, if this game was more fleshed out and had a more distinct art style, it would make for an interesting Slay the Spire alternative. I've played a game like this before, but that one did not have anime, so this is better. Also, Monster Summoner Guy is unironically really cool. I never really got a true college experience. I did do some college, but it was community college. So when I saw College Dept, I was definitely intrigued to see what my life could have been like in an alternate timeline where I went to actual college. And let me tell you, I wasn't missing out on much. Before we jump in, let me tell you about some of the features we can look forward to according to the Steam page. A quadruple F game with pointless buttons, but they are still buttons. Hardcore only mode, no saves. If you exit the game or it crashes, you'll have to start over. No loot boxes, no microtransactions, no drops. Thank God, this game is already ahead of most of the industry. Blizzard, Ubisoft, take notes. Jumping into the actual game, you spend the entire time on this screen. Your debt is shown at the top and you have several buttons to press to help you pay off that debt. Work decreases the amount of debt you have, study gives you knowledge points, and the more knowledge you have, the more money you make from working. You also have a couple of extra buttons like one-time loan that pays off a good chunk of your debt, but of course you can only use it once. You can also use the part-timer button, which lowers your debt over time, and holy, what kind of part-time work are we doing? This feels illegal. My strategy for paying off my debt in the shortest amount of time was pretty simple. Step 1, activate part-time work right away to lower your debt over time. Step 2, take out your one-time loan. Might as well get it out of the way. Step 3, study. Going straight to work earns you very little money, so racking up some knowledge points will benefit us in the long run. I went for about 500. Step 4, mash work until you win. With this strat, I was able to beat the game in about 2 minutes. Normally, it would take people their entire lives to pay off their student loan, so I'd say I did pretty well. And what do you get for finally paying off all of your debt? More debt. Tragic, but real. Most realistic life simulator I played. No riveting gameplay, just study and work until your inevitable death, and if you're lucky, maybe even pay off your accumulated debt along the way. But more realistically, you'll probably just get handed even more debt. Only immersion breaking part is that part-time work makes too much money. This was by far the most expensive game I bought for this video, so it has some pretty big shoes to fill. And to my surprise, this game is actually a 2-in-1, so that's a good sign, right? You pay a premium price, you get double the game. Let's check out the running game first. Okay, so clearly this is a Sonic/Subway Surfers inspired game mode, but it sets itself apart from the competition by setting the camera so low that you can barely see any obstacles in front of you. Thankfully, the game does give you a button to adjust the camera. Hold on, this has gotta be a fluke. So you're telling me that the camera is already so low that it is impossible to properly play the game, and the only other two settings for the camera are lower, and so low that you are literally in the ground. Never in my life did I think I'd be complaining about a face full of ass. I swear, this has to be a joke, a meme, a prank, or something. There's no way this was someone's actual attempt at making a game that they could put on Steam expecting a profit. If it is, I almost respect it for defying expectations. Unfortunately, that expectation was $11 worth of good game design. Thankfully, you don't actually need to see the obstacles because they don't even do anything to slow down or stop your character. The only way you can lose is if you jump off the map, which you almost have to do on purpose because you hate your life and the game and your decision to buy this game. And what's going on in the background? Nothing about this mode makes sense. Alright, even if the running mode doesn't work, we can just chalk that up to being a bonus mode that's still in development. Let's go ahead and take a look at the island mode, which seems to be the main game here. The description of the game says it was inspired by Danmachi, or perhaps better known as Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? I have actually seen this anime, so I could probably pick out the inspirations and references. So the only connection I can see is that the character you play as is an anime girl, who, as far as I know, is not in the show at all. That's fine. It's not like I picked up this game thinking that it would be a video game version of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? I'm more interested in the other features, like beautiful graphics in anime style. Look, I've never seen an anime that looks like this, but who's to say that this can't be considered an anime style? Handsome character. Well, you tell me, do you think I look handsome? The largest island near which there are small islands. Here, let me check. Yep, I do see a large island and small islands around it. Underwater creatures, sharks, fish. Assuming you play this game for more than 5 seconds, you're gonna spend a lot of time swimming. And during that time, you're not going to come across a lot of fish. I honestly don't even think they're in the... Did you see that? Oh my god, it's everyone, this is Sharky McSharkface. I cannot kill him. My arrows bounce off of him, but turns out he's a nice guy. We had a nice charming conversation. We set up a date for next week. I'm looking forward to it. Goblin enemies. There are, in fact, goblins in the game, and I was able to shoot them with my bow. Housing construction. I could not figure out base building in this game for the longest time while playing. It got to the point where I thought that when they said housing construction, it literally meant that there was a single shack constructed on the island you spawn on. But after mashing every letter on my keyboard, I accidentally opened up the building menu. So to my surprise, I got to work with the jankiest building mechanics in a video game ever. Anyway, welcome to my new home in Lost Island, Atlantides. Come on in, come on in. Feel free to admire the extravagant architecture. This here is where I like to stand and think as I contemplate what series of events led me to buying this game. One summer weather. I cannot believe they actually listed this as a feature. Normally, the feature would be multiple weathers, changing seasons. If you make a game, it's inherently going to have at least one weather. But I mean, it's not like they're lying. Convenient management. Absolutely, it's convenient. For ultimate convenience, your character only gets a bow and a sword. And to make sure that the management system can't possibly get muddied up and become inconvenient, Your character can only use the bow, so you don't have to deal with the hassle of swapping weapons. It's not a flaw, it's a feature. This game is unbelievably bare. There is nothing in the oceans, there's nothing to do on the islands apart from shooting like 3 goblins, and the big mysterious island in the distance? Yeah, I took the time to swim there, and of course there's nothing. And the thing is, I should have expected this. Sure, the description might have some embellishments, but the trailer and the pictures on the game's Steam page proudly shows its vast emptiness. So, did I get scammed out of $11? Well, let's look at it this way. What else could I have possibly bought with $11 in this economy? Anyway, time to write my review. Character is very handsome. When I saw Croctopia for the first time, I just assumed that it would be Stardew Valley with frogs. But after playing, it turned out to be so much more than that. When you start the game, you get to pick out one of 4 frog characters. This bearded frog was quite tempting, but I ultimately went with the basic frog. What can I say? I'm a simple man with a simple taste in frogs. The tutorial takes you through all the different things you'll get to do in Croctopia: mining, crafting, farming, and even fighting bosses. This game brought me back to Demon Souls because that tutorial boss absolutely murked me. Death took something from you? Death 1 out of 5? Uh-oh. I don't know what happens when we get to 5, but it can't be good. You're then transported to your house just to find out that your home is getting torn down. So you go to the company handling the operation to try to reason with them so you can keep your property, but this doesn't work, so you have to run home and fight off the bulldozer about to demolish everything. Since talking to the company didn't seem to resolve things, you try going to the mayor, and even he starts taking their side. But he eventually compromises and tells you that if you can get signatures from everyone in town, then he might be able to help you. So you start doing favors for the other frog folk in return for their support. Some ask for simple things like rocks or money, but others ask for crops. Now that might sound simple considering that, well, this is a farming game. What's so difficult about putting a plant in the ground and digging it up a few days later? Well, first of all, you have to water the crops, which makes sense. Plants need water. And to make things even easier, you only have to do it once per crop. But the problem is, even though you seem to be surrounded by water in this game, it's actually really hard to obtain. You have to get it from wells, and each well only gives you 1 water to use and then takes a couple days to refill. And there's only a handful of wells around the map. Oh, hold on, I got myself stuck. All right, can't get myself out. No choice but to starve myself. I may have made a few other oopsies up to this point. You can build more wells though, so I just filled my property with them so I could collect enough water for my farm. After you finally water your crops, you have to wait for them to grow, and you can't skip or fast forward through days. And there isn't a lot to do around the map either. During that time, all there really is to do is fight random monsters and smack rocks on the ground. But even if there was stuff to do, it doesn't matter because on top of all of this, the demolition company keeps sending bulldozers. And if one shows up, it destroys everything on your farm. You have to start over. So if you want to leave and hit some guys with a stick for a while, you certainly can. But don't leave for too long or you might lose all your progress. After a few days, I was finally able to harvest my crops to complete all of the requests. Or if I wanted to put off my eventual eviction, I could go to the market to sell the crops and... Okay, tell me how this conversion makes any sense. You buy potato seeds for 20 gold. You grow these seeds into full-fledged potatoes, and each one sells for 2 gold. And it's not like you get a bundle of potatoes for each seed. 1 seed equals 1 potato. It is literally impossible to make a profit on these, or most of the other crops for that matter. In fact, the only profitable one is pumpkins, which you buy for 10 and sell for 15. So I went and collected the signatures. You bring them to the mayor and he basically goes, "Damn, that's crazy. I'll put in a good word for you or something." And then goes into his house never to be seen again. Your frog obviously feels very slighted by that. So you decide to have a conversation with this greasy trailer park frog who shows up, and in that conversation, you find out that the mayor is actually related to the CEO of the demolition company, and that they have plans not to just demolish your house, but the entire town. After this revelation, you two decide to set up an ad campaign to warn the other frogs about the impending threat. And that's where my playthrough ended because I couldn't figure out how to get paper to make the flyers. Normally I would just look up a guide, but unfortunately, no one has played this game. Well, my life is ruined and the government is corrupt. I guess I'll just kill myself. Uh-oh, I've made a terrible miscalculation. Oh man, what did death take from me? I don't want to know. Oh, instead of respawning you, the game just loads the last save. Okay. Funnily enough, this is one of the best unintentional horror games ever. That death screen in the counter is so ominous when you first see it, even if it didn't actually amount to anything much. Your character portrait looks more like your evil inner self. Anytime you get into a fight, the most menacing music starts playing. It sounds like I'm in the Shadow Temple in Ocarina of Time, not a cute game about frogs. Also, this is the loading screen you get to see every time you go to a new area. At this point, I can't tell if they're trying to scare me on purpose or not. The tone of this game is so confusing. In the end, I'd say that this is another game where I think if they just expanded on it, it could make for a solid experience. The story is certainly a unique take, considering that the genre is filled with games about inheriting a farm from your dead grandpa. That story is just unfortunately held back by convoluted gameplay and a lack of variety. Which does sound really bad, but I see some interesting ideas here that could be a lot of fun if they just got worked on some more. Frog cute, loading screen scary, bulldozers ruined my life, bad mayor, we should unelect him. Very good story, would like to see more funny coats. And that was all of the games for today. I'll link all of the Steam pages below if you want to check any of them out. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'm trying to get a bunch of those, so it would be much appreciated if you did that. And click the video on the screen if you want to see another video by the handsome guy you just watched. I promise I'm still handsome in that one, even more handsome than the character we played as earlier. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.